thank you for being with us here tonight for this very special evening also for me, hosting this conversation between two amazing filmmakers from different generations, and we hope to create a rich storytelling conversation between their experiences and processes. My name is Ovillo Dornusoglu. I'm a curator and writer. I'm working as a cultural guest worker in Germany for the last 10 years. And I'm very happy to introduce very shortly, not that he would need an introduction, but be very honored to be sharing the same stage here tonight with Želimir Žilnik, an inspiring filmmaker and thinker for many generations, who kept film as a radical participatory practice and who insisted on what he desired and what he imagined for the world in his films. Inventur is a very particular time for him in Germany, where he lived in the 70s. But of course, we need to say that before he actually made it to Germany, he had already received many awards in film festivals, Oberhausen and also Berlinale. So it is from his early works, legendary film early works, to recent feature film in Austria, to the most beautiful country in the world. He keeps on inspiring us and making us believe in a radical practice to change the world, I must say. And in conversation, my beloved colleague and friend, Pınar Öğrenci, and also who comes from an architectural background and started a really promising artistic career in the recent years, producing really important also works, and has been also very much inspired by, we will discuss further, by the positions Žilnik took. Also, Pınar recently arrived in Germany in 2018, and already has been producing really important cultural critical work here. And I would like to start with the roots in the filmmaking, roots in cinema. So how has film become the tool of survival, breathing, and radical expression for both of you? How did it start? And from then on, I think then we can develop.
Good evening. I'm really happy to be here and first of all see various young colleagues and their work, but also to see the people who are interested in these things, what we do. And to answer this question, I just say some simple things. Of course, the cinema, when I was young, was actually in socialistic Yugoslavia, was actually the most important window in the world. Without the cinema, we will not be able to feel, to understand, and to learn how the people are living in Africa or in Paris, in Germany, in Great Britain, all over the world, how the other continents look like. Because in that old time, of course, we did not have all this today's technology and internet, so the informations have been coming much more slow. That is one thing. And second, the state and also the actually restrictions have been much more harder, you see. So the going to the cinema was also for us one of the most, I would say, happiest moment in our youth. Today, you are living, and we are all living in completely different situations. So these two small, simple films, they also show some of those big differences which happens in these 50 years. In the time when we filmed this Inventur in Munich, of course, I remember, although I did not speak all those languages what the guest workers have been using, but when you come in front of them with the film camera and with the simple message, look, we would like to film you and your statements, and maybe if you have some comments, and maybe if you have even some critical words, or maybe some sort of good feelings, just we are giving you the opportunity to express yourself. The people have been excited. They said, oh, film, that is quite interesting, because at least maybe someone will see us, and maybe some of the friends will at least learn that we are still okay and we are here and so on. They have been eager to be filmed, but as you see, they also show some other things, that these first waves of guest workers, they have been people not much educated, the people not much speaking or very poor speaking German language, then not knowing anything about surrounding and so on. And after 50 years, we see how this society has changed, being much more open. That is one thing. Second, I suppose that institutions are also much more in communication with the people who are coming, giving them possibility to get employed and also learn the language. So we see very concrete this how actually this sentence that world is more and more getting like one place for the mankind. It is obviously through this new inventory which we have seen. That is one of the things. Of course, we can debate the many other aspects. So I would maybe be very much interested to see what my young colleagues have to say.
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank to Žilnik for letting me to do this remake in Chemnitz. I grew up in Van, which is in the east part of Turkey. And during my childhood, or also during this high school years, I didn't have chance to go to cinema, actually, because it was just after the military coup in Turkey, and there were no cinema. We had like 2 cinemas, actually, but they were all closed because of the political situation. So when I came to Istanbul, when I was 17 years old, first time I watched a film in the cinema, and I was really
you remember?
Impressed. It was Genco Erkal's film Camdan Kalp, Glass Heart. Glass Heart, yeah. Then I said I chose the wrong education. Maybe I shouldn't study architecture, but I should have studied film. But of course it was so late to study film, and I finished school, and I did many architectural works actually in Istanbul. But in the mid of my 30s, I decided to stop working as an architect. And then in few years, I really radically stopped working as an architect, and I started for my artistic career in Istanbul. And film and video works actually just immediately became a tool, main tool of mine, Because of, I think the answer is very simple. I like to tell stories. It can be abstract or real life stories, but I would say that I'm kind of storyteller. I'm also writing. I like writing, so there is a, I think, important continuation of the literature and cinema. There's a huge relation with literature and cinema. So yeah, cinema and film video making became like one of my main tools to just express myself and to communicate. Maybe if you like, I can also talk about the
Exactly,
Inventur.
that's my next question actually. How have you discovered Želimir's films, and how did you come to the decision of, or like the dream of, captured by the dream of remaking Inventur today?
I was actually very lucky. I met with some friends. My first friend in Germany, he was Sami Katip, cultural critic, and he introduced me with Boris Budin and Golkirn. And they all know Žilnik very well and his works. And when I met with Golkirn, he gave me a book as a present, and he said, "Welcome to Germany." And it was Surfing the Black. It was about Black Wave of Yugoslavia, the filmmakers, the école of filmmaking in Yugoslavia. And yeah, when I was reading, I found the most important and most interestingly Žilnik's films, actually, and I tried to find them on YouTube. And first film was actually black film, which gave the name to the all cinema filmmakers. So, and then I saw Inventur. At the same time, I was, of course, as a new migrant in Germany, I found myself in Kreuzberg. And Kreuzberg is a district of guest workers, actually, especially from Turkey. So, you know, I surrounded by many former guest workers, and I learned many different stories of them. And yeah, when I met with different generations of guest workers, also different migrants from Turkey, I just discovered learning about all these different generations. It's some sort of like learning about Turkey, learning about Turkish political history. You know, people were coming just after 1960 military coup for work because of the economy was really bad in Turkey at that time. And then 80s, just before or after 1980 military coup, political migrants, more exiled people. And then 1990s, the mostly Kurdish and Alevites, they just run away because of the war in Kurdish part of Turkey. So I was so much interested the former generations, migrant generations from Turkey, and of course Inventur became more important for me, you know, to see all these people, mostly Turkish, Yugoslav and Greek and Italians. So I immediately had an idea to remake this film nowadays in Kreuzberg. My main idea was making film with this new kind of migrants, actually, like me, myself, from different southern countries, but also from former Yugoslav countries, from Spain, from Africa, just to talk about the politics of our countries, the reasons that we forced to leave, to come to Germany. I saw the stairs as a stage to talk about the problems.
Let's.
Sorry, yeah. So that's why I decided to remake this film.
No, because I want to, you know, I want to build up towards
details,
there. Exactly, yes. Exactly. So, Želimir, I would like to ask about your experience of coming to Germany, because I mean. Of course, Yugoslav workers and Turkish workers, Kurdish workers are coming at the same time, but processes are quite different. And you also came around in the 70s, following this huge flow of workers contracted to Germany. Have you also considered yourself as a Gastarbeiter, guest worker by then, and how did you enter Germany?
Yeah, that is something what really happens without much of my expectation. As I started first making documentary films in Yugoslavia, and they have been relatively well received. Some of them have been under critic that they are too radically somehow showing these social differences in socialistic state, but they went quite well on television and cinema in Yugoslavia. But what was interesting in these 60s and beginning of 70s, film market in Europe for our films was the biggest in this country. So first of all, we have been very well received on documentary film festivals, from Mannheim to Oberhausen, where actually Yugoslavian films have been each year very highly awarded, as we have had all over our country. That means in Macedonia, in Bosnia, in Slovenia, we have had companies for short films which produces quite good stuff, and they have been good awarded here. And of course, that was also shown also some in distribution in Germany, but also many on television. And also I started making long films, so the first film was also very well received because got a Golden Bear in Berlin. But in socialistic state, you have had these changes in ideology, in politics. Sometimes was much more strict and dogmatic, sometimes was more relaxed. So in beginning of 70s, our already filmed material and shown material was forbidden to be actually put in distribution. And we filmmakers, we have not been employed. We have been freelance, so we didn't have actually the way how to survive. So I thought I will go the same way as the tens of thousands of our guest workers. But of course, I was not in the system. That means the system was organized because Willy Brandt and our President Tito have made a contract that some hundreds of thousands guest workers will be received to help industry, whatever. And that was organized. But I came actually alone, thinking I would find maybe some small job in like repairing the cars and so on. But very quickly, after a few days, I met some of the German authors of my generation, and I am of generation of Kluge, Fassbinder, Edgar Reitz, Werner Herzog, and the others. And we knew each other on the festivals, you see. So when they ask me why I'm here, did I bring some of my film? I said, no, I came here to make films on Gastarbeiter. I couldn't say in that moment that I was politically forbidden in Yugoslavia because nobody will believe it. Nobody will believe it, as Yugoslav films have been running around. And then Kluge, who was the president of the Association of Filmmakers, said, that's a good idea. We don't make films about Gastarbeiters as we don't speak those languages. And they say, you can do it here in Filmverlag der Autoren. Here's a camera. And I said, okay, I need 1 week preparation, 1 week filming, 2 weeks. He said, no, Lucy, we are giving the money out of our pocket. I will give you 2 days of shooting, 2 days of editing, and and we will see is it good or not. So he taught me how to make low-budget films, you see. so low-budget films. And then I went on the street with the cameraman, where a big construction site have been in Munich for making U-Bahn. You see, because U-Bahn was dug in the big trenches, and we have heard our language. So I was shouting, "Cameras, can we come down to film you? And you tell me who are you?" Because I also wanted to learn what is the status of guest workers. You see, I didn't know anything, and I want to film and also to see my situation. And they shout to me, "You cannot come inside because it's forbidden. Come in the houses where we live." So they gave me this address, you see. And when we went there, we saw that actually we made stupid mistakes, as we did not understand that in the same building are living various nations. So they do not speak among themselves. They are sitting in the families. And when they go out with the children, then the Turkish family is on one side, Italian on another. They don't speak German, you understand? And so I thought there is no possibility to film anything, so we had some beer with us and some juices for the kids, and I thought it will completely be destroyed, this idea, not destroyed, but impossible, this idea of filming. And then came this old man, Hausmeister, and he said, "What are you doing here? What do you want with the camera?" And we said, we want to film the people, how they live and so on. Can you help us? So he said, "Well, then you have to have them all together, ask them some question." And then in that moment, I got this idea, actually inspired by one old film, which is called Nanook from the North. I said, "Okay, go up, we'll put the camera here." And we made actually only one shot, eine einzige Einstellung, you see, 11 minutes. And of course, when I said it's finished, because I simply understood that somehow sort of curiosity to watch them exist. I said it's enough. So these people, professionals from Germany, said, no, you have to film them from another angle. They said, no, it's enough. And I never thought, and I never dreamt this film will survive so long, you see. Of course, then I continue and made in Germany 7 short films, which all of them are sort of low budget, but okay, that is how it started.
So there is, of course, a particular gesture of coming down the stairs, coming down the staircase. So that was a practical solution for the staging of the shot.
You see, of course, this coming out up to the microphone, it is like, when we are coming to the stage, to the microphone, to talk to the people. So for me, it was like a symbol for this presentation. I wish just to open the curtain and show my face. That is me. And it is interesting how they are simple people and not educated people, but they did have some feeling, because of course we could not press them and we could not tell them you have to be. Just anyone who wants to present themselves are invited to come and maybe say something about themselves. So that is this need of somehow communication, what in this old time we all have had when we have seen the camera in front of us.
I wanted to ask.
You see, we have had in our subconscious idea, maybe we will come on the screen, maybe some friends will see us, some relatives will see us, or maybe we will show how we are clever or show how we look nice. So that is this magnetism of the screen and of the camera, which actually help that this medium of ours survive up today.
And I would like to ask also one additional question. Did making this film make your relationship better with the other Yugoslav comrades, with the other guest workers?
No, not much. I continue. When we made it, you see, I have to give compliments to film scene in Germany, because they have had some powerful powerful stimulants which we did not know. So when we finished this filming, and then Kluge says, "Is it finished? Can you don't want to add anything?" I said, "No." They said, "We will send it on one commission, you see, which is called Bewertungsstelle." So he said Bewertungsstelle. I said, "What does it mean?" So there are a group of critics who will just watch the film and decide, is it a high-level art piece or is it good piece or not? I said, okay. I thought it is, some people who will be very criticized. And after just 1 week, they said, look, it was on Bewertungsstelle and it got this besonderes wertvoll grade. What means? I said, what does it mean? I said, is it something what I will have like a paper? I said, no. The producer will get 30,000 mark like support because he helped a good piece, you see, and he has to film another. So it was very stimulus that everybody that was chasing me now to make another film, and those films have been also running in normal distribution in front of the long films, and also on ZDF on one program for short films, which all of those I would say spaces we didn't have so stimulative in our country, so that brought me actually to run from one film to another while I was here, and then start preparing a long film. But of course, that when you ask me how was with this communication with our guest workers, of course, in that whole time when you have a film, when you have a screening and so on, you also start having some cries of the people around you with whom you communicate, so that for my long film, then I could form the crew and have also some participants, some extras, and so on. So I felt myself nothing else, not as an artist or not as some intellectual here, but as a guest worker, which just instead of hammer and the tool, I had a film camera in my hands.
Pınar, we would like to talking about that staging, coming to the stage, using the stairs as a stage. That's something particularly changes, and also in your film. But also another thing comes forward that more than a particular like building, this is a portrait of a city that receives different forms of migrancy. And also you involved different voices, also in a much more deliberate way. So can you a little bit talk about this process and inverting also the movement, what it meant for you?
When I decided to make remake, I just so much thought about the stairs. What is the meaning of the stairs, or coming from down, from up to down, and I just thought maybe it can be kind of like symbol of the unclear situation of the guest workers, because they came to Germany for a short time, and they didn't know how long they are going to stay, or if they can bring their families or not, or if they can continue for longer time. So it was not clear for them. That's why they called as guest workers. They're supposed to go back to their own countries. So coming from up to down, going to the street, it was kind of symbol of their situation. So, and this time when I also the stairs are kind of like spaces in between streets and the houses, as Walter Benjamin described in his text about Naples, about porosity of the spaces. So also the situation of the guest worker between these two countries, their homeland and this new foreign country. they are some sort of in the situation of limbo, and the stairs are the architecturally they are hanged actually to the main construction of the buildings. So I found this kind of symbolic ways of thinking about staircases, and I thought I should make something different for the remake. So I just wanted to bring them from down to up.
It's a much more difficult movement also.
Yeah, instead of going to the street, I just invited them going to their houses, imagining Germany as a new home to live and to make their new life, to construct their new life. But also it was different, because when you see, maybe you already recognize this, when people come from up to down, it's look like more energetic, more vivid, you would hear more sounds of people, and you can see more people when they come from up to down, back to back, like you can see like 2 or 3 more people waiting back to them. But when they come from up to down to up, you will see only one person and the maybe head of the other one. So it was kind of disadvantage of for the plastic or for the aesthetic of the film. Also, their energy is coming a bit down. Like they feel like they look like a bit tired when they climb. But I just said, it should be like this. There should be some changes as a remake. So I accepted all these disadvantages to make changes. Yeah.
And also, it would be maybe important to mention how shooting, how shooting also during pandemic affected the form of the film.
Yeah.
And Chemnitz also is a place that you were also introduced to, thanks to, here we should also mention our dear friend Ayşe Güleç, a really very important anti-racist activist an educator based in Kassel, who initiated the whole project also involving us. Mm-hmm. So Ayşe made this particular proposal for you to work in Chemnitz. And how did this introduction work for you? It would be good to know also.
Yeah. First, as I told before, I wanted to make it this remake in Kreuzberg. But Ayşe Güleç invited me for this exhibition, and she asked me to do it in Chemnitz. And actually, I was not. I didn't know anything about Chemnitz. I didn't know where the city is, and I have never been in these former East German cities. And of course, as most of you maybe, I also had some prejudices about East German cities, especially the rise of the right wing and conservatism. So I was a bit skeptical to make in Chemnitz, but then when I talk with Ayşe Güleç, I just said, why not? Because we are all looking for these big cities, mm-hmm. or looking to the west. Why not we to look to the east city, and nobody. Maybe it's not a popular city, but people are living there. Mm-hmm. So then I just started to think about Chemnitz, and the city itself became kind of like, the film became kind of portrait of this small former GDR city. So also the reunification of West and East Germany, and the history of Chemnitz as a former East German city, and city itself, the advantages of living in this city and disadvantages of living in this small city, they all became kind of like the main story of the film, despite also of course the migrants. So they all described why they want to live in Chemnitz, and what is the about the beauty of Chemnitz, and also the differences of GDR time and nowadays. So yeah, it's actually very different than the original inventory.
So
in this sense, yeah.
So in a way, Chemnitz also shaped this inventory process for you.
Yeah.
Želimir, I would be curious. Of course, Munich at that point was a very particular portal city for the workers' generations to come. Also for Turkish workers, they were first arriving to Munich and then spreading through Germany. Did you spend time, or did you cross to East Germany at that point? So how was your connection at that point when you were in Munich, or did you have any communication?
Well, I must tell you, first surprise for me was when actually after 3 or 4 days being in Germany, the next Oberhausen festival started, and I went there because I had a lot of friends, and they, when they heard that I would like to stay here sometime, everybody says, go to Munich. I said, why? Because Bavaria in that moment have changed maybe some parts of cultural politics in favor of cinematography. You know that they have also a big studio there for making co-productions, and the filmmaker says we are forming there a filmmaker cooperation, which is called Filmverlag der Autoren. So the people from various parts, even from Berlin, are coming down there because of this new, open space. And then in the same time, I knew that actually in Munich there was a company for buying international films for television, which is called Telepool. And they have been buying also some of my and many Yugoslav previous films. So when I went to that company thinking maybe people know me, the chairman, his name was Magold, and he said, Želimir, you are here, but wait until I finish the talks with the French people. So they have been sending the first French authors from Godard, Truffaut and others. The Germany was giving actually co-production support to many of those films, which we did not know. So definitely Germany in that moment culturally was very open space. That of course I did not know. Well, I mean, funny thing, and the thing where I have somehow to act someone who is not completely understand what's going on is when Kluge asked me, look, bring me Yugoslav film law and regulation, because it is also very good. We want to apply it. But you see, in the same time, all these big directors whom they know have been stopped from filming. But I mean, that is how the destiny of the artist are through the history. Sometimes you have a success and support, sometimes you are pushed out. So everybody who wants to cross the line and be more provocative has to be prepared to get a kick and to be stopped. So it happens also to me making seven short films, which was everything was going very nicely and smoothly. When I made one with some controversial analyzing of this shift in German society, when actually the Anarchisten and Rote Armee Fraktion started also these criminal activities. Then I made one film which is called Public Execution, and they told me, those people who helped me in production, of course I registered, they told me you have to register your own production because you have to be somehow completely in charge of it. So we made this production which is called Alligator Film, but of course we have had the people to help us around. So they said, look, from FSK came a paper that this film of yours cannot be publicly shown anymore. It is called, of course, öffentliche Hinrichtung. And I asked, what is this FSK. This is freiwillige Selbstkontrolle. I said, but what is it? That is something what in your country you call censorship, you see. I didn't know that exists. And I said, but in Yugoslavia, a few of my films have been censored, and I was making a big press conferences, and I have published dozens of articles. And they said, here, it is not the way how we publish. If you got the decision that the film is forbidden, you just understand that like a serious thing. So this film, öffentliche Hinrichtung, short one, is still 50 years forbidden. So we can get a print for my retrospectives and from the festival, and has to be returned back to that institution, which is in Wiesbaden, still exists. That is very, I would say, serious state.
Yeah, of course, of course. I have also one particular curiosity. It's because it's happening in the same time and it's happening in Munich, which is the shooting of a very, now for our generation, very important film of Fassbinder, Angst essen Sie alle auf. And there are particular corners of Munich, and then of course making references also to Hitler, and seeing actually like both films following similar lines, similar actually resistant also stance. Did you meet, or did you have the chance to be involved in this film shooting, or like observe it in a particular way?
No. Look, of course, I knew these colleagues, but actually as friends, and as we have been working in this all time with film negative, so that means we have to use laboratories and also big editing tables. We have also using the technique of those friends, you see. As I said, Werner Herzog, Kluge, Fassbinder, but I was not involved in anything like that. Only one thing happens, of course, for my long film, Das Paradies. For long film, Das Paradies, which we have prepared, I was asking Fassbinder and Hanna Schigula to take the roles. And they have been actually okay, we will, but they have been asking quite big fees, which somehow from our budget we could not give. Now, of course, we made the film as a low budget with some not famous actors, and film exists. But funny things happened some years ago. Yeah. In St. Petersburg, there was a retrospective from Neue Deutsche Film. And some of people who are authors came there. Of course, the most films have been shown by Fassbinder, who, of course, is not alive. But then, in one moment, and this film, Das Paradies, which I made, was somehow put in that group of the films. I mean, because it was made in Munich, it was a German company. Yeah. So some of the Russian film critic in one moment stood up and he said, we have seen this film, Das Paradies, and also film Deutschland im Herbst. And why this foreigner who made the film Das Paradies have taken directly quite a few sequences from German Deutschland im Herbst. And then someone says, the man is here, ask him. So I stood up and I said, look, but my film is made 2 years earlier. And they said, but how it happens? I said, I don't know. Only what I know that I invited Fassbinder to take a role. And first what Fassbinder told me, he said, give me das Stoff, and I gave him the text. So maybe unconsciously something stayed there. And then the whole the discussion stopped.
Speculation for history. I would like to, at this point, I would like to ask about your interests, your common interest that I see in the real stories. Because in the 60s, in one of your interviews, you said about the documentary film and the art film, and how art film at that point doesn't or shouldn't take more time, and documentary is the important form because it makes the pain in the woman or the man or the child that is not a private thing, that it's a structural thing. So that's why the documentary should continue. And then you add afterwards that it is your actually personalities that shape the film. It's the film, it's the silver bromide, and then afterwards it's the personalities. So I would like to ask, inspired by like this statement, I would like to ask both of you about the real life stories and the film as a participatory process, making the form together.
Well, of course, as I started as documentary filmmaker, I was somehow very much enthusiastic in the fact that actually with the film, with making the films, you can also make some sort of documentation of the actually environment or the state where do you live, of society, and also of the ordinary people. In fiction film, that is not so direct. And also, from the beginning of film medium to today, we can say that actually always there have been documentary films which really have given us some sort of knowledge about the past time, and sometimes a knowledge about the facts in society which are so controversial that they do not get support to come even in a fiction film because of the budget, because of the actually some sort of these very big commercial firms which are taking care of the risk and so on and so on. So documentary filmmaking is still for me as important as a viewer as the fiction films. In the same time, definitely when you are making documentary films, especially long documentary films, you have some restrictions which are very direct and which you have to find a way how to escape. The first restriction is, of course, that you are somehow exposing the real personalities, the real stories, the real characters, and if the situations are very dramatic and weird and sometimes dangerous, then of course you are taking care not to expose especially some of the mistakes or some of the direct, I would say, unlawful doing of the people. So that is the problem where actually documentary filmmakers have to think very much about the moral side of their work. In fiction films, we are feeling much more relaxed, because if you say to the your main actress, look, you are now having the scene with your husband who is very brutal and evil, and let's now talk how in the film you are going to kill him. Then the actress will say, okay, shall I take a knife or pistol? It doesn't matter, you see. So you cannot do it in the documentary film, because if someone in documentary film will take a pistol and kill someone, he will be by everybody and even by police chase as a killer, you see. So that is, but in the same time, from the very beginning of our medium, there was this discussion which started even very early with Eisenstein and Ziegler-Vertov. Are the fiction films too much somehow taking from the theater, you see? And in that terms, documentary film is much more unique, new medium, you see. So that is those things why, if you would ask me what I would prefer, I would say I am trying through all my career, whenever I had the possibility to make documentary film, to run quickly and to react on the situation. I did that. In many cases, especially in this society where I spend my life, and the state which is actually unstable state, you can say, if we don't go to some details, then we have had parts of the time, history, and sometimes the whole decade when some of the things you could not publicly discuss in articles or in interviews and so on, and few very important times I could actually make some of my critical remarks and statements directly in the film. Directly in the film. Like you said, this black film which I made. So I didn't make black film before the politicians completely did not proclaim all our already finished and awarded and praised film. They said, you are making black films, you are evil artists who are watching our socialistic reality through the black sunglasses. So stupid, and nobody for 5 years could ever make any answer to them. So my first answer after this proclamation was that we are black. I said, let's do something, let expose myself, and I made that black film where I invited actually some clochards in my apartment just to show that actually this proclamation that Yugoslavia is a paradise is not right. And of course that politicians start shouting on me, Želimir, you are someone who is false humanitarian. You just took 5 clochards, but you should take much more to help them. Then I could come in the newspaper and on television. I said, this politician is completely right. He's living in big villa. He should come with 50 clochards, and I will make a long film, not 10 minutes. I will came in, and they could say anything, you see. And there is quite a few of these situations where I could, through film, somehow make this statement which have any space in any other medium. But I mean, I'm not alone. That happens all over the world, you see. I mean, with the film.
Yes, Pınar, especially I would love to talk about that film as a participatory practice for you is much more about the storytelling, because you said that you're interested in the stories, and that's what film is also, like a really attractive medium for your work. Maybe also in relationship with your film Gurbet, you can open what you said a little bit more up.
Yeah, I would like to talk about my experience with Gurbet is a Home Now, which is my first documentary film. It's about the guest workers from Turkey living in Kreuzberg, and the film based on photographs that were taken by Heide Moldenhauer, which German architect Heide Moldenhauer. She worked for International Bauausstellung project between 1984 and 87, and she took photographs of migrants, and she took photographs of streets, houses, and many things in streets, shops in Kreuzberg. And I was able to find this photographic archive from Landesarchiv. And when I got the photographs, of course I was very happy, because it took so long during epidemic times reaching the photographs. But then there were only like 1 month, 1.5 months for the exhibition, and there was a huge research about architectural parts of the film, which was all about discrimination, urban politics of Berlin of that time, the housing problems, and the urban policies. But yeah, I had photographs, but I didn't know of who were there, who were these people, and I was really, I didn't know what to do with these photographs, if I have right to use them without their permission. They were coming from the public institution and archive, but I don't know if it was like really ethical to use them without knowing their stories. And then I had an idea to print them, printing all of them in small papers. And I already knew that where they were taken in Adalbert, Waldemar, and Nahen in this island in Kreuzberg. And I started to ask people if they know all of these people on the photographs. And of course, it took time to find people that they know them. But after like a couple of days, I reached some people who knows I reached one person, and she showed me some others, and then finally I had chance to meet all of them, almost all of them. And
they're still living there.
And they were still living, and like, for example, the children, the girl, a very young girl, around like 5 years old, carrying wood to the house. She was now 41 years old, something like that. And her brother, which was like older, she says this is like second generation. He's a part of second generation. Now he was around 56 years old, something like that. And their families, some of them died, some of them went back to Turkey, and some of them still alive, and they were all tired, and I heard about their survival stories. And when they saw the pictures, they remembered how was the situation of that time, especially the houses. They told me that we totally forgot that we didn't have toilets in the houses. We didn't have bathrooms, for example. They had only one toilet in the middle of the building, and they were all using the same toilets, all the families. Also carrying all the woods to the houses, and the economic problems, and how Germans look to them, and how they communicated with them. For example, a woman, she told me they just saw us as a project, otherwise they would never come to talk with us. And it was like really, wow, I was like really impressed how she described that time, how she was feeling as a young migrant. And I learned the stories of different generations, first, second, and third generation, and also the discrimination of that time. The urban policies, especially it was forbidden to live more than 10% of the community should be German, so remembering all of this that times, and also hearing the stories of real people, real stories, then I was like really feeling good, and I said, okay, I have very limited time, but I have possibility to make this film. So all the idea of making like 63 minutes film came just after learning the stories of the people.
How did you connect with these stories yourself from your position as someone who recently migrated to Germany, but also for political reasons?
Yeah, I was actually, I really understood the difficulties of coming from villages to foreign country, because most of them, they would they have never seen big cities. They just came from village to the foreign country, which they don't speak the language, and which they don't know the rules, the routines of daily life. So I also grew up in very small city, and when I came to Istanbul, I also had all this cultural shock, you know, the traffic, the transportation, as I told, you know, cinemas, cultural life, everything was like a big difference. So I really tried to understand the difficulties of changing this daily life, the cities, the countries, the language, all these practical things about the daily life. So it was, for me, it was important to tell this kind of stories. We also, as a, you know, we are coming, I'm part of this new generation from Turkey, which they call themselves as a new wave of Berlin. And they are mostly very well educated, you know. They just moved to Germany because of the political reason to find more freedom for themselves and for their children. But they also had some sort of prejudices about this guest workers. Most of our conversations, I just noticed that they were like accusing them supporting the regime of Erdogan, or the Islam, or the conservatism, or they were accusing them not learning German, not adapting themselves to the German society, living in ghettos, living all together. You know, I just wanted to tell that it was not true, actually, and we cannot reduce all their survival stories to this, their political thinking, way of thinking.
Projection.
Yeah. So also, one of the ideas of making this film, actually, the main idea was coming from this, to tell the real stories of people, to understand them, also to understand ourselves, because we are part of Turkey, we speak the same language, and we have to communicate with them. We have to understand them. So one of these reasons was actually to make this film was for myself to understand which kind of migration I'm part of, and also to understand the other generations.
Thank you. Želimir, I also would like to ask about, I mean, we focused on Inventur here, but as you mentioned, you made also other films in Germany, and you made also other films about guest workers, but not only in Germany, but you also continued actually working on these stories. And when you were back to Yugoslavia, you also realized a theater play, the guest workers opera. Can you also a little bit? Can we think about these films, like these films and the theater play in relation with each other?
Well, of course, this topic of migrations have now much broader, actually, examples and meanings than in this first moment when guest workers have been coming to Germany. Meanwhile, of course, in ex-Yugoslavia, you have had these civil wars, which also brought many thousands of people in situation to become migrants from one part of Yugoslavia to another, and then also 2 million of Yugoslavs who did not take part in the war, who actually ran away over the border, and they became the migrants in different countries, but many of them also landed in Germany and Austria, and they have been received, I would say, very, very human and even friendly. That means that those migrants have been supported to survive, and the children have been actually invited to be in the school as actually boys and girls in the school and also on faculties. And what happens when this Yugoslav war ended and was stopped in 2000? It was not stopped by the local forces who have been engaged in the war, but by international community who did intervention. And in one moment in 2000, I'm living in Novi Sad, that is Serbia. Everybody thought that actually it will come some sort of peaceful time when the reasonable people will come on power who have been against the war and who are going to implement democratic regime. In that moment, I was very much curious how our refugees would be received back home. And being interested in that topic started when I have seen in my city with my friends many youngsters, 12, 15, 16 years old, speaking foreign languages among themselves, German or maybe French or maybe Italian. Yeah. And I thought maybe many tourists at once start coming here. So I start talking to them, how come, I know I can communicate in German, so how come was going? No, we are the children of the refugees, and we cannot enter the school here because actually we don't speak our Serbian language, and there are no class for us. And I continued talking to those people, and I was so surprised, to those youngsters, I was so surprised. They are well educated. They are very much, I would say, somehow used on the Western world because they are coming from the Western world, and they are surprised with this horror what they are seeing. And I asked them, but what is your situation? Unfortunately, we are all very desperate, very poor, and the families are not getting any help from anybody, and so on. So with the friends of mine and colleagues, we start making a small documentary film just to provoke this topic to be solved by maybe giving some lessons and opening maybe the new schools and maybe workshops, whatever, because I have seen really desperate young people who have been just feeling themselves that they are in the middle of ocean where they do not understand anything from the way of living to the language. And on those public discussions, we have seen some very controversial situations. People from the Germany and Austria and other countries, from the embassy, some like maybe officers came and said, but no, Western Europe, EU have helped all those families with some money to come back and to continue the life. And then those youngsters who spoke very good European language said, no, don't lie here, we don't have anything, and so on. And I saw there is controversial and manipulation there. And then we start actually making even the longer film, because in that moment when that came into the press, then I got a telephone call from Green Party in Germany. That was in the time when the Minister of Foreign Affairs Wozioszka Fischer, and they say, some girl, a woman says, I'm from Green Party, we are also against this deportation, and so on, but we know that we have helped the people. Why you are lying that we left them desperate, and can we come and see it? I say, of course you can. And in a few days came a commission of Green Party with this Frau Roth, and they asked me, well, what is going on? I said, here are the addresses of the families I'm having the contact, and we filmed them. You can go and speak. And of course, as they all spoke German, the commission came after 5 hours crying. He said, yeah, that is tremendous what we did. Can you maybe make film so long that the whole topic will be understood, and send us, we'll make a campaign to help those children. So really it happens that we made this film, which is called Kennedy's Coming Back Home. Maybe you have seen it. And it was toured through North Rhine-Westphalian, through Berlin area, through Hessen and that area, and really many of the mayors of the cities have been giving some sort of stipendiums or scholarship to the very good pupils and students, with idea anyhow they have been schooled in this country and we need new labor. So it is, as I say, sometimes this filmmaking, especially documentary filmmakings, bring you in the middle of some where I say knowledge and the situation you did not know. For instance, they called me to be in discussion of on one forum on the level where the ministers are and so on, which I said I am nobody, I just can show this film. And I saw actually all these controversial situations. For instance, when some of the priests have asked the Minister for Interior, and that was this lawyer Schily, whom I knew from Munich, as he was a lawyer for Filmverlag der Autoren. Yeah. So when they asked him, but why are you doing so this brutal, taking the families during the night? And he said, because the politicians are asking me, I know that is not a need, that is a propaganda. That is a propaganda just to show that we can be also very harsh and so on. So I have seen these interior conflicts, but on the end, as I said, those children, many of them could somehow use this knowledge what they had, because they stayed and continue their life also here. So that is this situation when you never would expect that it can bring you to see all sides of the story, which you see just on the simple way on the street.
Yes.
That forum is called Asylpolitische Forum Deutschland, where I was asked to be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, those asylum policies actually continue to be very hard, and a lot of information today is still kept away from the general public. But for example, a recent German pavilion actually worked on this topic. The Natasha Saad-Ragigian, the artist, basically used the whole pavilion project for discussing these policies, which was, I think, a very interesting turn. But at this stage, as you see, we have so many things to talk about, and we can continue this conversation also in your company for a long time. But I would love to ask back if you would like to join us as well, and if you have any points or any questions to add. Am I seeing? Am I not seeing? Edona, do you have question yourself. No. Then maybe like maybe one last question to finalize. To finalize this beautiful, inspiring conversation. Have we moved closer to freedom? It's a general question, but like, have we moved closer to freedom with all these changes that we are experiencing, yet creating these inner resistances, and also actually through your actions that you're talking about in relationship with your also politicians, that you managed to change another conversation. So, well, because the picture changed so much from the 70s to today.
Well, what is my experience through this very long life, that actually, in many cases, some spaces of freedom which start existing and being somehow used and enjoyed by the people, they also would be somehow confronted with dogmatism and some sort of control of either state or criminal forces in society. So I understand that I was living in these various periods where you would feel that some actually normal and life where some human rights are so implied and appreciate exist, and then come a new wave where actually brutality and dogmatism just wash it away. So that is how the things are functioning, maybe in the history. When we think about the history in the terms of centuries or decades and centuries, especially centuries, that is just a struggle for the peace and freedom in one powerful, long existing slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse. And these pieces of normality and freedom are just short pieces, always under the threat.
Pınar, shall we close with your words?
Yeah, of course, I feel like more free here in Germany, especially after leaving Turkey with big political problems leaving behind. But I will say that if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel free in your own country, you will never feel free in the foreign country. So I hope we will feel free to talk in our own countries first, then we will talk everywhere, So I don't feel free. Yes.
And if we think at one maybe more work question, if we think, Gurbet as the first film and Inventur as the second, what would be the third one to close it, to make it a trilogy for you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy, but the third film is going to be finished just in 1 month. It's called Turkish Delight. It's a story of Greek family who had to leave Izmir and Istanbul during the First World War, or after the First World War, during the Greek and Turkish War, and finding themselves in Syros Island, in the middle of Kikladik Islands, and producing lokum, making lokum, which is like we call Turkish Delight, which is like symbol of Turkish culinary culture, like symbol of Turkish nation. Turkish kitchen, but making in different country. So it's a story and forced displacement of this Greek people, and also migration story of lokum from Anatolian Asia Minor to the Greek lands. But I would like to say also as a last word, this film making Inventur, also like having an idea of making Inventur, really made me feeling good, or made me like really feeling stronger here, because when I came here with all this background and trauma from Turkey, and I immediately had an idea of making something, and I felt like really stronger, because if you are an artist and if you don't know the art scene in this new country, but at least if you have an idea to make something new, it gives you some strength, some power. So thanks again to Žilnik.
So that I would say thanks to the intergenerational solidarity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look, I mean, if any of your generation would ask me what would be my advice, I would say struggle as much as you can.
Yes, sure, all the time.
I think there's no better way of closing this conversation. Thank you, both of you. Thank you.